Welcome to the Born Unbreakable podcast. I'm your host, Coach Des, mindset motivator and lifestyle entrepreneur. From loss, trauma, disappointments, and devastation to healing, hope, and betterment, what has grounded me is my unbreakable spirit. We all have that spirit within us. Every week, I'm here to inspire you with stories of perseverance and growth. My mission is to help you crush self-limiting beliefs and to be unapologetically you. You are your only limit, so take action today. Let your unbreakable ride begin now. This episode is brought to you by Brasserie, more than just bra straps, the accessory I love. With styles from dainty to daring, you will too. Click the link in the description or go to brasserie.com and use promo code BUSHIP to get free shipping on your order today. Welcome to the Born Unbreakable podcast. I could not be more excited about the special guest that I have on today. It's my dear friend, Robin Choe, representing Canada. What? Vancouver in the house. Yeah. We're going international, y'all. And I'm honored to have Robin because Robin is many things. Robin is a dad. He's a relationship coach. He is an award-winning author of The HQ, which is this book that if you are a father that has gone through divorce, absolutely pick up his book. I'll make sure the information is out there so you can go find that and purchase it. He is a public speaker. He's an inspiration to me every day and to so many people that he serves as clients. So to have his precious time means the world to me. And I just have to say, Robin and our connection was like fire, and we are going to make this happen. I'm committed to doing it, but we have actually not met in person yet. Not yet. Soon though, but we met in the self-development space. We both participated in years back in the Summit of Greatness, which if any of you are not listening to the School of Greatness podcast by Lewis Howes, that is a must on your add to the list. Robin is also a podcaster, so I'll let him talk about that as well. So we are both in this space, but self-development is really what brought us together. And we happen to be in a Lewis Howes clubhouse room. And that is what launched our connection. And one of the things, because we're just going to go get real vulnerable in this episode of the podcast that brought us together, was the fact that I heard Robin talk about divorce. And that is something that I've personally been through. And it is a difficult thing to talk about. I think when you go through it and maybe accept what that process is like. So there's just a whole lot. If I could go on for an hour to just talk about who he is, but then you wouldn't want to listen to me anymore. I'm going to let Robin, talk about himself, but I'm just grateful that you're here and all of the knowledge that you're going to bring to this discussion.
Thank you, Des. And honestly, I'm so pumped for this. And we were talking so much about just how we met and the clash of the worlds coming through on Clubhouse of all apps. And for me, I think connecting with the people, and shout out to Lewis, right? Connecting with the people that Lewis brings around. I've always said that they're just like so humble, so supportive, just down to earth. And I knew that the moment that, you and I connected, you were part of that vibe. So I really, really appreciate you so much for just, upholding that I hate to say expectation, but I just know that the people that come to these events are just so filled with amazing energy. So I'm honestly happy to meet you. And I guess where do I even begin? That was such a great introduction, and a lot of it does stem from my divorce. But before I jump right into there, I want to give a little backstory of how that even happened. So growing up in white suburbia, I was playing hockey a lot. That's what I put myself into. I was a hockey player. And that's all I really did. I played it competitively, and I was getting scouted to go to the NHL, and I was like getting put into these feeder teams. And um, when all of that changed was when I injured my ankle. I tore and ruptured every ligament in my ankle, and my hockey career was basically over because the summer in which I was supposed to go try out for these teams was when I was on crutches. And that was really heartbreaking for me, and I didn't know like what it was that I wanted to do, because I really was trying my hardest to get into the NHL and be a professional hockey player. And then from there, I started hanging out with the cool kids, quote unquote. And, you start doing all these things because the jocks wouldn't hang out with me anymore, right? So I was like, all right, and then that opened up a whole new world. I smoked my first joint. From there, it just like, piled into like partying, drinking, and just excessive, like, just debauchery, I guess, so to say. And, that leads to, it's quite the experience, even before I even get into like talking about how I got married and had kids and all that. So it's, you sometimes you have to realize, like, you can't be doing certain things for the rest of your life. And I learned that at a very young age, where most guys now, I would say, are probably experiencing that in their 30s, right? They're just trying to settle down then. But me as a guy in my early 20s, I feel like I was going through a midlife crisis already, having gone through so much. I mean, a couple of my best friends just dying, other friends going to jail, and just like the environment that I was surrounded in, it was just unreal. It was surreal, like out of a movie. It was literally out of a movie. But you fast forward, and a lot of my mindset at the time was like, I can't be doing this. I'm gonna either end up dead or in jail at this point. And I met my ex-wife when I was about 23, which actually was a blessing, because that was when I was basically getting out of this life. And she was a good catalyst to help me, build or foresee a new future. And that accelerated quickly when she got pregnant, and we had to have a shotgun wedding because of that. My parents were heavily religious, Catholic, and all that whole nine. And they really, and I too, I can't say it was all my parents' fault, but I too didn't like to have kid out of wedlock. So I felt like I owed it to her. If that, we are going to go this route, then let's get married. And so we got married, shotgun wedding. She was 6 months pregnant when we got when we got married. So she was hiding the baby bump with an empire dress. It's kind of like high up, and then it kind of covers. Yeah. So
yeah.
So she wore
rocking. She was rocking the moo.
Yeah, exactly. So she was rocking the moo, and she was very young too, mind you. She was like 19, very young mom, very young wife at the time. And like to compare to today's standards, I mean, you and I have talked about this already. You got married pretty young too. So you fast forward, and then 10 months after, the baby comes after, where we're pregnant with number two. So it was just a wild ride, so to say. And, this is where we get into the bulk of a lot of, I guess, the reason why I do what I do, being in the relationship field, and navigating the whole divorce situation for not just like, the dads, but like, moms too, and other, divorce is like one of those things that I don't wish on a lot of people, because it's, some people I wish that divorce happens, obviously, because like, there's situations of toxicity, and you got to get that shit out of you. Like, you got to go. Sorry, can you swear? Yeah. Can you swear?
Heck yeah!
Yeah.
This is your story.
Yeah, so like sometimes there's some toxic shit that you just got to get rid of. And so, where the divorce actually makes sense. But, for others, the reason why I don't recommend it is just because, like, how much of your identity becomes your marriage. And I get that, especially with family and children, you become, the father, and a husband and a family, and this identity of you, as soon as the divorce happens, it's gone. Well, not gone, but just, I guess, like, it's just altered, and it's not what, men have ideally in their minds growing up, because men are, very idealistic. So for, like, I'm just speaking on my own behalf, like, that's how I really felt, that my world came crashing down and my whole life was shattered, because my vision of a happy family was going the absolute distance. Because my parents are still together, and I saw them go through thick and thin and raise two kids in a country that wasn't even theirs, without even speaking a lick of English. So I saw that struggle, and I wanted that for myself as well. But unfortunately, you can't force certain things to happen. So long story short, the divorce, it happened due to certain reasons. I guess my own shortcomings and her own shortcomings. I don't know if I want to go into full detail, because she's, out of respect for her, she's still the mother of my children. But there was some really, really some, I guess, we both came to the conclusion that, I guess, this is the way that we were going to go. We separated. She found new love. I found new love. And what had happened during that separation period was, when I was engaged to get married again. Yeah, I know, engaged to get married was crazy, right? Um,
Wow.
I had met a girl, and she didn't want to be a stepmom, and all the power to her. She laid it out there. It wasn't like she didn't, tell me up front and say, why did you do this, and snap at me after the fact. She actually laid it all out there, and I agreed to it, right? And so
Mhm.
during the whole custody battle, she was kind of in my ear, making sure that when I did sign the custody over, that her and I can start our brand new life. That was kind of her deal breaker, and I get it, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Whether it was wrong or right, at the end of the day, I still had my own choice for it. I should have said no, and I should have never let somebody else dictate what I'm supposed to do with my family. And
Mhm.
so, lesson learned, mind you, this all happened before I was 30. Like, my, like, party brain wasn't formed yet. I wasn't cognitively aware of certain things. I wasn't as conscious as the man I am now. And it was just a whirlwind of bad shit happening over and over and over again. And this is just a case in point, that if you don't fix what's going on inside of you, your life it's gonna seep into every area of your life, whether that's relationships, whether that's business. It's just an inevitable fact of life. And it's just not that you can't get through it. It's going to be a lot more difficult for you along the way. And I just don't wish that on anybody, because, again, I've been through so much pain. Not only that, I haven't seen my children in 7 years, 8 years, so that is a huge toll on me. So anyhow, during that whole time, I was depressed, drinking, suicidal. I just didn't have anyone to turn to, because at that age, no one really is going through the problems that I'm going through, especially my friends at that age. They're like partying and drinking still at that age. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I had nobody. So on a whim, I just created a Facebook group. I was like, is there anyone else out there? Right? Let me just create a private network where, I'll just facilitate these conversations, but, like, let me just know that I'm not alone. And so I created this Facebook group, and when I did that, that's when I found Lewis House. And because I was listening to his podcast, at the time, a Facebook ad pops up, and it was him on a webinar or something like that. It was like, hey, I'll show
Mhm.
you how to do my 7-figure webinars or something like that. I was like, cool, registered, went on the webinar thing, and he was pitching like a School of Greatness Academy, where it was like an 8-week course. Hundreds of other people are going to join in. Come on in, let's do this together. And so that's when I started mapping out my whole life. And Lewis challenged me to put 100 members in that group, when I had like two of my friends, like two people that I didn't even know, join. And so long story short, there's like 5,000 people in there now. Solid group. all divorced fathers. They've all professed, their sob stories in there. And through their struggle, I learned, how to solve a lot of the problems, because I'm in there researching and doing this for myself, and the therapy that I paid, I'm just like,
Mhm.
giving them free gems. And I started seeing that in the threads, my comments were getting upvoted. Like, I mean, not just like 2, 3 likes or something. I'm talking like 30, 40, 50 likes on a comment.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, there's some power in the things that I'm saying. I should write a book, right? And so that's where the HQ came along. Um,
Yeah.
and the HQ was just my rendition of what I thought, divorced men should organize their life in. And the HQ is called the Happiness Quadrant for short. And the Happiness Quadrant is 4 areas of your life, where it's relationships, health, wealth, and growth. And I coupled that at the end of the book with something called the 4 daily tasks. And what helps somebody get through a tough situation, or trying to get a breakthrough or change themselves, they need to do something daily to change their habitual nature in order for other change and more opportunities to come. But sometimes we're so focused on holding on to the pain and the bitterness that we're not able to complete these things in our life. So I'm really just trying to channel the bitterness, the heartbreak, into something more positive, like the 4 daily tasks. And so what the 4 daily tasks are: do something in each category every single day. So relationships, let's pick that apart. Go call your mom, go call a friend, go hang out and grab a coffee with someone. Strike up a conversation with your barista or something like that. That's something to add into your relationship bank. Then you go into your wealth bank. Okay, what can I do here? Maybe you already go to work. Is there a side hustle that you can add on to? Okay, let's add something like to there. Um, and then so on and so forth, health. But the growth aspect is the most important thing for healing. And the growth, what I meant for that, is not just what can I do for other people, and because sometimes we do things for other people kind of selfishly. Like sometimes we do things for other people kind of like, I wonder if they'll return the favor, and that's why I do it. Whereas growth, that is very specifically catered to doing something for someone or a group of people that cannot help you. And
Yep.
that's the biggest thing. Do things for other people that cannot help you back, so you can rid yourself of these expectations. You can bury that habit of, of bitterness,
Mhm.
because that's where it stems from. When you expect your partner to do something for you and she doesn't do it, you get bitter. So the
And
whole point,
resentful.
exactly. So the whole point of this growth thing is about building you up so that you're generous with your energy, you're generous with your time, and that's all that's about. And I guarantee you those ripples that you create in that specific area of your life is going to catapult you into areas that you'll never even think about. So why I created that book was because it was something that I needed to do. And I
Mhm.
lived my life this way. And I get really meta in terms of like, habits, how do you change them? Right? Like,
Mhm.
those are very hard to change. And I always say it's little bit over little time. Just do one thing a day over a long period of time and you'll get results. But sometimes it's like, how do we even motivate ourselves to even do the habit, right? Sometimes like, I don't even
Yep.
want to do it. Well, there's mind tricks that I use, and it's been helping me all the time, which is like, just do it for 2 minutes. Tell your brain, I'm gonna sit here and I'm just gonna do it for 2 minutes, because 2 minutes is not even a long time, right?
Yeah.
But studies have shown when you do it, you actually end up doing it for 15 minutes.
Just giving it a shot.
Just
Yeah.
doing it for 2 minutes, because like if you think 15 minutes, you're like, oh man, that's a long time. it's a mind trick. So you trick your mind into just saying, okay, I'm going to sit here and do it for 2 minutes, like read a book, let's say 30 page, like 2 pages of a book, let's
Oof.
say. Yeah. But you
Mhm.
end up reading like 30 pages of that book.
Right.
So that's kind of like, going meta into the 4 daily tasks. But, zooming back out, you can honestly change your life in so many different directions, and by filling in those areas every single day of your life. I look at it as like, I think Robert Covey talks. Is it Richard Covey or Robert Covey?
Stephen Covey.
Stephen Covey, yeah, he talks about bank accounts, right? Like different bank accounts
Mhm.
that you should be depositing your energy and your money and stuff like that. I looked at it
Mhm.
the exact same way, where relationships is a bank account, your health is a bank account, your wealth is a bank account, the people in your life, your community, that's a bank account. These are accounts that you should constantly be putting in, nourishing it and watching it grow, and creating what is it that compounding interest,
That
right?
compound effect, the Darren Hardy, right?
Yes, the compound effect, right? It just absolutely goes nuts. And so, I to wrap that all up, I think through that darkness that I faced, and then just shining the light on the community, and then focusing on the 4 daily tasks, I started to enrich my life to a degree that I didn't even think it was possible. Like, think of, like, my parents were looking at me as this university dropout that just, smokes weed and, does all these things. That, like I said, like, my parents have no idea what this life is all about. And also my older friends are probably, thinking the same thing about me in that sense.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so, but regardless, that pain, purpose, passion has led me to this area where I'm able to, shed such a broad light on just relationships and divorce and dating and parenting. And I can talk for days about like the court system and alimony and child support. Like, we can,
Oh,
right? I mean, we can get into so many areas, but I'm gonna digress, and let's,
yeah.
I don't know what
I
else you'd
know.
offer me.
I'm thinking we're going to do the 4-part series with Robin Choe. Today's episode is on alimony. No. Um I mean, you just shed so much light on the journey, and I just want to acknowledge that, because it obviously wasn't overnight, going from your party years to even finding another relationship. So maybe, let's talk about heartbreak, because oftentimes that is what people come to you for. They're in a state of uh, desperation, sadness, darkness. You use the word darkness. So when someone is in that place, getting to the place that you're talking about, taking a step, even just taking a step, is difficult. So, when you think back for you, what advice would you give to somebody who is fresh off of heartbreak and hasn't even begun processing, their own feelings, and struggling of what first action step, to take? What does that beginning look like for that person that just experienced the most devastating breakup or are still in the process of that?
Yeah, I wish I can say that there was a prescription for, everyone. But one thing that I can say is that heartbreak is like a psychological event as much as it is a physical event. And with that being said, some people will get stuck in the psychological side of it, which creates a pathway in order for you to keep staying hurt. And it just creates this cycle of emotion and your mind telling you how much of a victim you are. I don't obviously say that off the bat, but this is kind of like my I guess my research into this, because the heart, um, very much so, is like a very like delicate organ, and when we experience things like that, it could make someone want to die almost, and that's very important to understand. Because the reason, another reason why I do what I do, the male suicide rate is like 3 times higher than that of a woman. And when you look into the reasons why they have these suicides, it's a lot to do with their relationship problems. And so if I could just say that and move forward, hopefully that brings awareness to some of that. And because I too was thinking along those lines, and I know how heartbreaking that is. And so, if you're going through that right now, it's very important to feel it out if you're a man, because we've been so like women. I wouldn't say they do a better job at this, but maybe just if a woman has masculine energy, they could probably have a tough time as well too. But men, with very masculine energy, we're told to suck it all up, be a man, right? And then we've heard this so
Mhm.
many times. I encourage you, if you are listening to this and that's the type of man you are, is to really, really feel what's going on, and give honor to that, because and if we don't, we're just going to bury it. And if we bury it, it's just like what happens. This is what I say about, like, you take a beach ball into a pool and you try to like
Mhm.
suffocate the beach ball down into the water. What is it going to do? It's just going to pop right back up.
Mhm.
And you don't want that to happen to anybody in your life, right? And whether it be physical or aggressive, because I know that's how it can manifest sometimes through a guy. Women do a very good job at expressing their emotions. That's just like how they lead, and unfortunately, maybe that's the reason why they are able to get over divorce so quickly. But some of the men, they do struggle, and like I said, I just encourage you to feel the pain. um, Definitely feel the pain, and know that time is not going to heal the wound. Like a time, I hate that cliche. Time heals all wounds. I hate that.
Mhm.
Time, time is not going to heal all wounds. It's time with action that's going to heal all wounds, and you have to really put an end date on your sadness. So let's say you're finding out about the divorce today. I
Mhm.
know that's a very hard time. I would say do what you got to do for about a month. Come back to me, and let's talk about an end date about when you're gonna get over this. And it doesn't have to be something very serious, but you got to give yourself that time to grieve. Um, and what that does is it mentally tells your brain that I got to cut the cord from the pain that I feel in my heart to what I'm thinking inside, because they do connect. We do have the ability to connect those two, and sometimes we need to disconnect that pain and that trauma in order for us to move on in our life.
Yeah.
So that the end date is really the most important thing.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge what you just said, because I do feel like it is very important, which is giving yourself permission to grieve. And I'm glad you're saying that from the perspective of a male, where it is okay to feel, you should feel, and hiding that, burying that, suffocating that isn't a healthy way to process. And I just appreciate hearing that from you as a male, to say, feel and process, allow that, and then move on to action, and move into that direction of, okay, now what am I going to do about it? I've given myself that timeline, and now I'm ready to get out of this funk or this rut or this shitty dark place, right? So one of the things I love about what you shared is the fact that one of the actions you took was community. You decided to make this Facebook group. I think it was layered on top of that was the fact that you got ideas coming from Lewis Howes, and you went directly into that. But what has been some of the impacts that you have seen from community with the divorced dads that are in your group? What is the power of community?
So I mean, I can put on my, I guess, my coach hat right now. As a coach, what that does for your business is it just absolutely blows it up, because your community loves you. they rave about you, and they support you whenever you have something of value to offer. So when I put my book on sale, it sold out because these guys are they want it themselves, because you're so connected with them. You are them. That's the most important thing, is that you're just a reflection of the community that you build. And for me, why that's so damn important is because without those guys, for one, I probably don't know where I'd be right now, because again, I never really thought about jumping into relationship stuff at all. I was working a dead end job when all of this was happening. And it was, like I said, it was just it's a blessing to have this community. And a lot of the things that I'm doing is I'm fighting for this community, because there are some injustices that they face in the court system as dads. And I talk about them specifically, because that was the community that brought me up. They are the ones who gave me my voice. They're the ones who gave me the confidence to keep using my voice in a way that's going to create awareness on the things that they suffer from and that they can't necessarily articulate. And it's hard for those guys, right? They don't want to air out their dirty laundry to everybody, because that's a burden. So they come into this group to find community where guys understand. And that's why I think it's so damn important. I always say women do such a good job at this, in creating these safe containers where you guys can go and you just, whether you talk shit about men, it doesn't really matter. It's just like you have a place to go and air it out. Whereas guys, we just bottle it all in. And I mean, I can sound like a broken record here. And I'm sure a lot of people have witnessed this. And, we're beyond this level of just getting past the emotions, because I think conscious men, respect and honor emotions. They validate others' people's emotions as well, not just their own. And it helps them connect so much more deeper with, the people that they love, the people that they care about, like their kids. Like, I mean, everyone benefits when you're able to come into a deeper awareness of why we're here, the purpose of why we're here on this earth. And I can go for hours about that, but I mean, like, as simple as I can say, there's a deeper purpose as to why we're here. And whatever that is for you, that is that for you. But we all belong in a cohesive community, in this all-encompassing unit that's fighting for good, that's trying to eliminate, or not eliminate, but at least suppress some of the evil that happens. And that community only gets stronger when you're able to build sub-communities and communities of your own, when you stand for those kinds of values, which I hope people do, and I encourage y'all to do, right? Like, I mean, you can't be a dick and be fucking running around these streets, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so it really does, man, like I really get pumped up about this stuff, because
Like you had to be surprised that there's freaking 5,000 people when, it was you and two people to begin with. I mean, you're not alone. Like, talk about not being alone. That's a massive community of people that have gone through one of the shittiest things there is to go through in life.
Yeah, and handpicked too. I mean, there's probably tens of thousands of people who have tried to get into the group, but we don't allow anybody in the group, because one of the questions that I put in there, and the reason why I put it there, is what are you most grateful for? And I took that from Lewis, because I don't want anybody coming into the group that's not grateful for something. If you're ungrateful for whatever, you are not getting into this group. And so I've pushed away thousands of men, because they are ungrateful and they don't deserve to be in the room. Because this room is about getting places and not being ungrateful for the situation that we're in, but being grateful for the pain and the lessons that we're about to endure. And that is why my group is very, very, I guess they're tight knit. We look after each other. Yeah, there is a little bit of woman hating going on, but it gets quickly corrected, mind you, because I don't want any of that bitterness, none of that revenge stuff. Like, it gets you nowhere. And I
Hmm.
say that because I learned the hard way. I really did, I really did learn the hard way. Um,
Yeah. Now, do people get into the group today? Is it something that is still
it's
people can get
still
in?
alive and running. I run polls, so I run polls in there, to poll my men, and I ask them all kinds of things. People jump in there with photos of just the divorce finalizing, and their kids passing different milestones. There's a gang of guys in there that we just talk about anything and everything, and and we just support each other. We there are some suicide scares. I'm not gonna lie, and it's
Yeah.
amazing how the whole community comes together and tries to make sure that he doesn't do anything stupid, and that we got a band of brothers here that even though we're all online, at least we still have that that connection, and that we're still here and we're listening. So when a guy posts something, he'll get like 20, 30 responses of men telling him like, dude, we got you, man. No matter what you're going through, you're not doing this alone. And so it's really important that this group survives. I haven't really talked about this much. Maybe I'll just give it to you because this is like a little bit of an exclusive. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm creating a little messaging app for the divorced fathers, maybe like an app for them, because my brand is called Dad's Overcoming, and I want to provide just not just divorce stuff, but like relationship, life, business, stocks, crypto, whatever the case is. But they can go into these little areas and connect with other divorced fathers in their own areas. And then they'll have, let's say, like I'm a guy in Maine or something like that, and I'm going through a
Mhm.
divorce. I can download the app. I can click on a tab and find all of the lawyers in Maine that will help me, or all of the mediators in Maine that can help me. So this is something
Mhm.
that I'm developing in my mind right now, and I haven't really
And
said.
when you put things out in the universe, Rob, they come into fruition.
They
So I'm
do.
just saying.
No, they do. So this is the first time I've ever actually talked about it. So yeah, it'll be kind of cool to congregate even more fathers, even just worldwide, right? Not just on Facebook,
Yeah.
worldwide. So yeah.
That is huge. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait because that is going to help so many people because I think you're absolutely right in that it's not just the divorce, it's life after divorce, right? I think that's just such an important thing to put out there. That is the event, then you move past the event and you go on to the next best version of yourself in that transformation, right?
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me as well is the kids, right? When parents suffer, the kids suffer too.
Mm-hmm.
And they unfortunately don't get much of a voice during the divorce process. And I've heard and talked to a lot of children of divorce, and obviously they don't, they never wanted it, and it affected them as well too, even their dating life and the partners that they've chosen. And it unearths a lot of problems. And so really, again, it's yeah, it's about empowering the dad, but my heart as well is also in it for these children, because I really want them to, because again, I feel like we focus so much on the mom and the dad, we don't really think too much about the children so much, and I just want part of that, and that's why I have such a soft spot for dads specifically. um,
Yeah, absolutely. I
yeah.
mean, going there for a second, because I do think that is a real life thing, is children. For so many people, what would you tell the parents that are going through this process as it relates to their children?
uh, Obviously the cliche one is to put them first, but it obviously depends on their age. So given the context of their age, it's going to be a little bit different. But I mean, if you have young ones, obviously be as simple as possible as you can, but without lying. But as they get older, you can get more complex and let them know. But I think, obviously communication is definitely one of the biggest things, and probe into it hard. Be proactive in the kid's life, because sometimes at first glance they're going to tell you, yeah, don't worry, mom, don't worry, dad, it feels good. I'm good. I'm as long as you're happy. And they'll say all these things and you're just like, you sure? And you're like, yeah. And then, I want parents to really, really probe deep, and sometimes that extra, like, how are you really doing kind of thing. Remember that room that we hosted? Like,
Oh,
yeah, like
Rob, that question, boy.
it's a real thing. And the reason why I do that and I do those kinds of things is because it's very encouraging. And like, again, a lot of humans, we put up walls to get through life, and that's normal. But when you probe a little bit deeper, especially with your kids, you never know what's gonna pop up. And because their minds are so creative and just free flowing, and they want to connect the dots, but they think that the parents are going to get sad, or they don't want to talk about it. Maybe you've expressed it like, hey, I don't want to talk about it now, honey, it's just driving me up the wall. And and that's probably why they don't bring it up. So really just probing it. Obviously this is after you've come to terms with a lot of why the divorce failed. You can elaborate a little bit more deeper on relationships and what they should expect from their partners or their future spouses, right? Like, it all helps them prepare themselves without, because I mean, my parents were separated for a little bit, like, I felt like it was going on, but like they didn't really talk about it, So it always kind of like, yeah, it just kind of like was just on the tip of my tongue, but I never really got to express it. And I know that bothered my parents, and I know it bothered the shit out of me. Um,
Hmm.
so there's these layers that I feel like would get overlooked a little bit. And so if we can just go into that one more deeper layer, it might be able to, really, really help the relationship that you have with your kids, and help
Yeah.
them cope with, whatever it is that they're going to be going through for the rest of their life. Because it is
Yeah.
a long road for them. Unfortunately, you can't always be there. Mama and dad can always be there, but you can at least imprint some words of wisdom upon them, right?
Yeah.
So,
It's
so
it is a lifetime thing, that's for sure. Many, many people experience it. So I appreciate you saying that. I do want to acknowledge something that we were talking about earlier, because I think people listening are probably saying, Rob helps dads and he helps a lot of guys, but we talked about you helping women. So that is something that you do. And what made you expand your footprint to also helping women in this space?
it's an interesting question because I get asked this a lot. And again, I started coaching, started the business helping men only, specifically divorced dads, right? And that was just my thing. But when I got into these circles at like Summit of Greatness and other personal development things, there's obviously women there, and they get into the conversation of, so what do you do, right? And you tell them, and they're like, oh, so you have this little boys club. What are you, like, some misogynist or something, right? So I get into these, and obviously they're just joking. It's a little tongue in cheek, right? And I
Yeah.
laugh it off, and I find that I find that pretty funny, right? So I was like, you know what? And I haven't really tested my chops with, I'm trying to understand the women nature and all that and stuff like that. So female nature or whatever.
Do you regret it now? No, I'm kidding.
Well, we were just talking about that, and I get it. Some of my female clients are they are a bigger handful. I'm not gonna lie. They drive me up the wall sometimes. But what's so great about helping women is they are the greatest cheerleaders. So talk about like referrals. Again, this is me wearing my coach hat right now, right? Like, talk
Yeah.
about the referrals that you get from women, because they speak, once you get them through a life event, they speak so highly of you to their girlfriends, and then their girlfriends tell their girlfriends. And whereas
If
men,
there's one thing that women do is they talk. So
exactly, right? But men, they get their thing, they got their one and done, and they're like, all right, I'm out of here. And then they get their breakthrough and then peace, right? So for that part, I'm so gracious for women. But when I take off my coach hat, it's a lot deeper than that. Look, I have 2 daughters, and I think about that life that they're gonna grow into a lot. And my heart goes out to the struggles of women. I've always witnessed this growing up. You know, my mom getting cheated on, and then staying with my dad because she has nowhere to go. She can't, she's in a foreign country without a lick of English. My dad brings in all the money. Not only that, think about when she was younger, always being worried about some guy doing some weird shit to her, or, just I think about this a lot, and how so many injustices there are for women, across the board. And so when I take off the coach hat and you really peel down the layers, I have a soft spot for not just women, but like humans in general, but like women too, not just men. And that's where I think women really started to feel my heart. They really started to feel that I was in it for them and I'm on their side. And it's true. Me being a male Asian minority as well too, by default, if you think about it, I'm a feminist by default, because I believe in equality. I believe in equal opportunity because I'm a fucking minority. Of course,
Mhm.
right? And so
Yeah.
even my Asian women, and my Asian sisters, right? Them having to live the life as a woman, but on top of that, being an Asian woman, right? It just adds
Mm.
another layer of complexity to the whole thing. So I spend a lot of hours thinking about these things a lot, a lot, not just for men, but for women. And how can we break down some of the barriers? Because I've heard it from women. I've heard all their complaints about men, right? And I've even heard about all the man-hating women out there. And I've heard all the women-hating men out there. Heard it all. And, that conversation is so unproductive, let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so unproductive. And I'm all about family and keeping the unit together, and raising these children in the best way possible. Because again, going back to that conversation, their voices get drowned out a lot, and then they end up struggling throughout their whole life.
Mhm.
So we really want to be cognizant of some of the things that we get ourselves into prior to even marriage, right? Like picking the right person, I think, is the most important thing,
Whew.
right? Sometimes we're
Yeah.
blinded by the lust and the chemicals, and we're just like, oh my God,
Oftentimes.
yeah,
Most times.
yeah. So, and I don't blame them, because I was the same way, right?
Yeah.
I was the exact
Especially
same.
when you're young. When you're young. You got married young. I got married young, and you learn a lot of lessons through that experience, right?
100%. I'm just thankful again, grateful, to have gone that. I did go through the bitterness of the divorce. Don't get me wrong. I'm human. You know what I mean? I'm human.
Like,
I
wow,
was
Rob, you're so resilient and everything. But
I am now.
yeah,
But before, I was just this petty, bitter, revenge-filled guy, honestly.
angry.
So we all have to.
Diary of a angry Asian guy.
We have to admit those things, and I think when we're able to admit it in such a joking manner, it's such a good tone. As a man going into your journey post divorce, right? Like, because that is a new journey, that is a new life that you get to embark on. Because life is short. Think of it as a blessing. This is a new chance to create something brand new for yourself, right?
Yeah.
And that's such an enlightening feeling to me, honestly, because like life is like so short, but there's so much left. Especially for us right now, we're so young. We're able to just create something brand new that's just like to your standards. You know what I mean? Everything that you
That's right.
wanted to do. And
Hmm.
you're very, very cognizant of that, as opposed to in your 20s, you're just doing everything to get along. You're doing everything your parents are telling you to do. Your friends are
Yeah.
doing it. And then it just gets, you get in this jumbled world. And it's like, are you really doing all this for yourself? Are you just getting along are you just moving along to get
To
along?
fit in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. You
So,
find your voice, and you find your authenticity and your uniqueness, and as you go along the journey. And I think that's one of the most beautiful parts. And I do want to come back to, because I would be remiss if I didn't come back to the part of you being an Asian man, and also just some exciting things that I know are in the works for you. But I want to take a few minutes and ask you a couple of personal questions just to kind of get to know you, and then we'll move on to the other exciting information that
good.
I want you to talk about. So I
Good.
have a couple of questions, because this is Born Unbreakable, and we're all on a journey, and we all have our own uniqueness. So I have just 5 questions to ask you, just to get to know you a little bit more. And my first one, it starts off easy and it gets a little deeper. So my first question for you is, what 3 words best describe you?
Ooh, that's a good one. It depends on who you ask, right? but for
That's
me,
true.
but for me, if I were to describe myself in 3 words, I would say humble, confident, and ambitious.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Humble, confident, and ambitious.
Mm.
Okay. My next question is, what's something about yourself that you're working on improving?
My ego, can't lie. We have a big guys. I have a big one. We got a big one.
Oh,
Ego has been one of those things that if I could look back on a lot of the problems that I had, and a lot of the problems that could have been solved had I not had such a big ego, I would be a lot happier. I would say, a lot. I would say a lot of the problems that I had gone through and it caused me a lot of pain was due to that. So I'm definitely gonna say I'm working on my ego and how
yeah.
I can use it to be effective, not destructive. So
Ooh, that's a big one.
yeah,
I bet there's many people, especially men, that can relate to that.
100%.
That's a good one. Okay. What's a self limiting belief that you've had to overcome?
That Asian men aren't sexy. That
Ooh,
that we are undesirable by women. That was a
wow.
self-limiting belief that I had to overcome.
You rocking the sexy now, Robin?
Well, I mean, for a young, I mean, I grew into it early, mind you. This is when I was thinking when I was 16. I was 16 when I had to overcome this because I was such an awkward kid up until then. I talked too much. I was so hyper.
I want to see awkward Robin.
Jeez, I was a very awkward kid. Like I was I was like treasurer of the student council. Like I did this morning school announcements at my high
I
school.
love it. Hey,
Yeah.
I did those things too. I thought they were
Yeah,
great.
I was a very awkward kid, and I was very I didn't think girls thought I was attractive at all. So it was very difficult for me to break out of that shell until I was like 16, 17, and then I started getting a little bit of confidence, and yeah, so that was a self-limiting belief that I had to really really rid myself of, and I'm sure right now
I'm
guys still have that.
Wow. I'm really this isn't it's amazing to learn this, because I feel like your swag is legit. So for
Thank you,
you to
thank you.
share that story is yeah. Wow, that's pretty vulnerable. The sexiness of Asian. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, what's one thing that you want to see changed in the world?
I think the biggest thing for me is the divisiveness of the world today. and how polarizing some people can get. I really hope to see more of those barriers drawn down, and we can humanize each other and respect each other for our differences. And that comes on the back end of all the Asian hate crime that we're seeing a lot, and that's because, I mean, we come to a new world, and in this new world that we're living in, apparently there's stronger forces at work that unfortunately do coerce us to behave in a certain way. And if we can peel back those layers again, we can truly see that everyone is just here to be happy and live a life that hopefully means something for everyone. And for those of y'all just still searching, you will find it at some point. But I think at the end of the day, that's what we want. All of us want us to, have a happy life. And if we can not be such a jerk or a bitch, we can be better human beings to each other. And yeah, I really wish that we can stop being so divisive.
I would love to live in that world.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Okay. My last question for this little segment is, what is one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever been given?
There's a lot. So funny you mentioned this. I just answered this. And the best piece of advice that I ever got was, bitterness is like drinking poison and wanting the other person to die.
Ooh.
Bitterness is like
Wow.
drinking poison and wanting the other person to die. And that was a big lesson on revenge that I had to learn. Because when I was bitter, I was fueled by wanting to get back at the person. And I was like, how can I hurt this person in the worst possible way? And I thought in my head, jumping out of the divorce, getting engaged to a supermodel would rub her the wrong way. And it did, apparently. But that ruined me. Like I said, I lost my children, I lost my sanity, I lost every bit of who I was to I wouldn't want to say sell my soul to the devil, but she's not a devil. She was an awesome person, just misguided. That's all. I'm not throwing shade on her. But yeah, she was an awesome person. I made that decision to want to get engaged, and just unfortunately it didn't work out. But again, bitterness is like drinking poison and wanting the other person to die. At the end of the day, you are going to be the one suffering the most. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you acknowledged that. I have I know many divorced people, and divorced several years ago, like maybe more than a decade or so, and the bitterness that exists in that sphere is still very dominant and present. And it's unfortunate to see that, both for those individuals who actually have moved on to other relationships. So I don't quite understand why the need to maintain that when you've supposedly moved on is there, but also the impact, like what you've talked about on the children. So.
Exactly, yeah. You're hitting the nail right there, Des. You got it right.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, we won't get too far into that, because I do want to come back around to something that I think you and I are both passionate about. So I have to tell this little story, and then I want you to talk about this special event that you're putting on. And I don't want to steal the thunder, because I'm so excited about it. I registered, online and all the good things. So I'm going to let you talk about it. But and it is going back to just being Asian. being Asian in general, but being Asian right now. So let's just call it what it is, because we're in a society where that's a unique thing, considering what's happening in the world today. We saw what happened in Atlanta, but that's not the only place. I live in California. I see a lot of crappy things happening here in my hometown, San Francisco, and other major cities around me, and it is absolutely disappointing and devastating to see that. So one day, Robin asked me to join him in moderating a clubhouse room. And the question, and that's going back to my comment that I made earlier about the question of that Robin said of, how are you doing really? That was the question of the room. And going into it, Rob and I and a few others that were moderating thought, this is a great idea. Maybe an hour, maybe two, it's going to be very productive use of time, considering the environment that we're in. 7 hours later, when it was 2 a.m. and we were all still on this forum and had people from all over the world, and I mean that legit, Germany, Asia, the US, Canada, I was blown freaking away by the fact that there were mad people running through this room. But not only that, the power of what the platform brought in terms of them having extreme vulnerability and sharing stories that I didn't struggle to even know what to say of how to respond to these very emotional and deep stories. Oh my gosh, thinking about it makes me want to cry, because there's just so many things that I was appalled by hearing, but also going back to the community piece of how important that is in life in so many ways, whether we're talking about divorce or we're talking about racism, we're talking about inequality. Community is something that brings us together and actually gives us hope. So that's a unique story. I have to just call that out. And you were really the catalyst for that. And so I just want to thank you for being such a pillar of light in a time that I do feel troubled by, that is still dark. We're not on the other side of this, but I'm hoping that we can be. And so I would love for you to share what you're putting together.
For sure, and that was such a great lead-in. Obviously, me being an Asian man, I feel compelled to do something about it. I'm done talking. I'm done spending time in these clubhouse rooms, and just we need representation and this and that, and I get all that, but we need more action, and it starts with the community, just like how I was talking about. And the community that I want to build is obviously Asian men. And Asian men, again, we have so many stereotypes. The data proves it. I can go on and on about all the negative stuff that people say about Asian men. And it's a difficult uphill battle for these guys. And they don't even realize how big of a struggle it's going to be later on in their life, and how much it's going to affect them mentally. And so it's funny you mentioned Clubhouse. That's when the co-founder and I had met. Me and him met in a Clubhouse room, and he's a big TikTok influencer. So shout out to Mike Kim Comedy. He's a huge TikTok influencer, and in the LA area actually. And me and him connected, and was like, dude, we stand for the exact same shit. And we ended up spending like 5-6 hours talking to each other about all of the stuff we've been through, and it was like, it was so nuts how we had met, and this just all of the sequences of events, and him and I decided that we need to create a summit, a mini summit for Asian men. It's kind of like a secret society, and a special container where men can come and learn to level up in so many different areas of their life. The HQ, I remember I mentioned some of that, but also it's a way to stay accountable. I mean, a lot of us Asian men, we don't have a brotherhood that really pushes us to get to where we need to go. Definitely struggled with finding mentors and finding, just people I could relate to, especially in the field that we are in, right? This is all coming full circle here. A lot of the spaces that we're in, Asian people are very underrepresented. I can only think of like a handful of people that are Asian. Not even I can count them on one hand. It's
Can you name like 5 other Asian podcasters?
like the only one I'm thinking about like is like Ben Baller. He's pretty big. Dan Locke. He's not even a podcaster. He's like a famous and then Jim Quick maybe.
Yeah.
I honestly can't think of any more Asian men that that actually have that kind of influence and power. So without going too deep into that, a lot of the crux of what I do is obviously representing for who I am, and just trying to make a noise and trying to make a buzz for whatever that I possibly can. But also community aspect. You can't just build yourself up, dude. Like build the people that you care about and the people that you stand for. Again, with the community aspect, they're gonna lift you up. They're gonna lift you up. And elevate you to a place that you've never ever thought about going to. And so League of Asians, so June 26th in LA, location to be determined. We're still trying to lock down a venue and everything. This is going to be the Origin of Kings event. So we're literally trying to knight kings at this event. We're going to try to level them up. And what's interesting is that, because I'm in the relationship stuff, I secretly love playing matchmaker and Cupid and setting up like organic situations for men to meet, and
Hey.
men and women to meet, right? So after this event, we have a singles mingle slash like, I guess just like a cocktail hour for these men, to get all suited up, get all prim and proper, and then invite some beautiful single ladies come over, and then we just have conversation. It's not like a forced encounter or anything. It's just that, like I said, some of these Asian guys coming up through the ranks right now who have like, maybe they haven't had much intimacy experience with women. They're going to seem awkward. These situations will help bring a little bit of that awkwardness out. And then, hopefully, it could lead to marriage and kids and like, and then we could finally say like, hey man, you guys met at this event. That's crazy. Right.
What?
So, I really do.
So you're basically telling me that there's going to be a bunch of sexy Asian men in LA on June 26th. Okay, so just like building that up, if you're listening and you're a lady and you just kind of want to wait outside of the event and, see these suited up dudes come out, I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, stay tuned. Definitely check that out. Leagueofasians.com. You can just put your email in there, and then we'll send out alerts. But yeah, it's gonna be.
So women can sign up to be at this mingle. Like, how does that part work?
Yeah, so the mingle is where the women are gonna participate in. They can't come to the actual summit.
The secret society.
The secret society is a boys club. Yes, it's a boys club.
Okay, so I get to fly there and hang out with you after the event.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly. Fine. Yeah. So we're all gonna hang out at this event. It's gonna be a nice little, again, we're looking at venues and stuff like that. But mind you, we're gonna replicate this in multiple different cities. So we're gonna bring it to like New York, Toronto, obviously, Vancouver. And so we're going to see how well this does in LA first, because I feel like that's such a melting pot.
A metropolis,
yeah.
like where Bling Empire was filmed, for any of the Bling Empire watchers. I think it's freaking awesome. I coming to a city near you.
Yeah, and again, this comes off the heels of all the AAPI stuff, and then men and women are viewed. Asian men and women are viewed as docile and not being able to stand up for themselves, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the brotherhood that men need to band together and feel confident that we have strength in numbers, and we're not going to use brute force or anything. It's not like a like a
Marching in the streets
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're not going to
with
be doing that
torches.
stuff. Yeah, this is literally just again a brotherhood where we can level up and
Yeah.
become an influence in our own individual communities.
Thank you for demonstrating what action looks like, Rob, because that I understand that could be a challenge or feels like such a struggle. And to see somebody like you come forward to do something that is not just uh, meaningful, but can pay dividends for what this looks like for the Asian community in terms of speaking up, having a voice, having a seat at the table, and being freaking amazing people in this world. I just think that you're such an incredible example of that. So thank you for being a catalyst of just, I know, because I know you is a seed that's going to blossom into 1,000 trees. So I'm excited to be at the beginning of this journey because it's only going to get bigger and it's going to get greater. Are there any other things that you would want to share with us about your programs or your coaching, or how we can just stay connected with you? How do we do that? How do we find you?
Yeah, find me on Clubhouse. I'm putting a lot of my eggs in there right now, and obviously Instagram. But find me on Clubhouse because I host a lot of dating and relationship rooms. All right, we go like 6, 7, 8, 9 hours sometimes. Yeah, I'm actually modding these rooms. Okay, like it's actually embarrassing. Some people will like wake up, they'll go to work, they'll come back, and they'll still see my
Bro,
room in
you're
the
still in
hallway.
this room?
Yeah. So it's actually really amazing. But again, find me on Clubhouse because we do all these kind of topics, and I heard that it's opening up to Android very soon. So whether you have iPhone or Android, definitely get on it. I'm on there, like I said, hosting rooms about dating and relationships. If you're single, it's a great way to organically meet women and men. Honestly, I'm hearing these connections being made already, men and women's DMs, and just,
Oh, snap.
so
Oh,
it
snap.
happens, it happens, and then people are resorting to, getting from offline to online, online to offline, and then translating that into meetups and stuff like that. So yeah, I love the beauty of Clubhouse right now. So find me on there, and then Instagram at the Robin Choe on every platform. So thank you
Okay.
so much,
So
Des.
yeah, the Robin Choe on all the social platforms. I cannot stress enough that Robin is somebody that you want to follow. I seriously, your content is amazing. What you do is out of this world. It is something that is so needed. So I just can't thank you enough for blessing me and my audience with your time. It means so much to me, and I can't wait to see everything else that is going to happen from here on out.
Uh, I'm trying not to cry. You're honestly you're a great host. You're a beautiful human being inside and out, and I think you're just an amazing person to share any kind of conversation with, because you're just so understanding, and you really do listen, and so that's a very very rare thing these days that a lot of people don't have. So you're also a very shining light, a bright shining light. So thank you so much, Des, for the opportunity to even come on here. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we will be connecting in person now. Things are opening up, so I'm looking forward to that. And we'll catch you on Clubhouse and all of the other all the other platforms. I know I'll find you on there because I get so many notifications of a room you're running. I'm like,
So yeah,
so
find me on there.
awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Des.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It was such a treat to have Robin on the show. I am grateful for the space that he's in because his work and his commitment is something that is so needed. If you're going through heartbreak, if you're going through a divorce right now, just know that there's hope on the other side, and find community. That is one of the biggest things that I took away from Rob's talk, is whatever that looks like. The grieving process is real, and it's important for you to go through that. But whether it starts with a friend or it starts with a group like Rob has, find the vulnerability to open yourself up to that. Don't suffer in silence. It's not a healthy place to be, especially when you're going through something that's emotional and traumatic. So I highly encourage you to follow him and his work. And if you do have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to him. This is a big space and a big topic, and heartbreak and divorce isn't something that you get over in a day, in a week, maybe even in a month or a year. So it's important to surround yourself with people who can support you through it. And I think communities like what Rob described are a great place to start. Thank you so much for listening to the Born Unbreakable podcast. Tune in next time for another inspiring episode. And remember, you are your only limit, so take action today.